Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a look at some weird price spikes which are going on in the Pokémon TCG, which, to be fair, most of which make kind of perfect sense. So if we start off with one I kind of showed you the other day, and we can lead off from there, and this all kind of tells a bit of a story. Because I showed you the other day that Iron Crown, the special illustration rare Iron Crown, was jumping. Like properly jumping in price. I told you that $100 for any non-Charizard special illustration rare in the Scarlet and Violet block doesn't make a huge amount of sense. And it's kind of dropped down a tiny bit. There was a recent sale for $90, but the reality of the situation is this is still a $100 card. And there's several reasons for this, part of which is it's a very playable card. There is a future deck, which largely revolves around Miraidon to accelerate energy, Iron Crown to beef up attacks so that it lets all your future Pokemon do 20 more, and then Iron Hands to take extra prizes while having its attacks buffed massively. And then, yeah, that's kind of why Iron Crown is jumping up. Here's the thing, though. Is it happening to all the different prints of Iron Crown? No. No, it's not. So the second fanciest print, after the special illustration rare, would be the gold. $26 as a pre-sale price, dropped down to stabilize pretty nicely at $15. It's not happening. We are not seeing the same thing from all the prints of Iron Crown. We can do this with a full art as well, the third fanciest version of the card, and what we see is that it starts off as like a $25 card on pre-sale, and it's now, I don't know, about a $13 card. The full art is really not that expensive. So, if you want Iron Crown, the special illustration rare is gonna set you back. But that's the only one. Now, to be clear, we're heading to the European International Championships soon. It's happening next weekend, actually. Not this weekend coming, but the weekend after. I will be there, incidentally. I'm not casting it this year, but I will be in attendance. I'm going as media. I've got fun things planned. I've also got a lot more free time at EUIC than I do on an average year when I'm casting. So, if any of you ever wanted to come and say hello, this is the year to do so. This is probably going to be the most available I've ever been at an internationals. So if you want to come and say hello, you don't have to, no pressure. But if you want to, I will be around. Come say hi. It will be lovely. But if this future deck goes and crushes at EUIC, and it's a very good deck, it's one I've been testing the most, incidentally, there is a chance that it will. And then if we finish looking at the regular version, pre-sale of 14, it's gone down to 9. The regular version of this is not actually particularly expensive. Yeah, fine, $10 for an EX is actually quite a lot. Compared to your average EX, that is very expensive. But compared to most card games, most things, it's really not the end of the world, all right? It's fine. But if this future deck ends up doing really well, it could get kind of silly. But unless that happens, and it's not the favourite, looking at Japanese results, it's not the favourite going into EUIC, I do think that especially the special illustration rare is not going to hold at $100. Special illustration rares generally don't. It could be an exception, but the whole point of an exception is we don't really expect it to come. But I told you that the other EX in that set was Iron Hands, in that deck that we were, getting all excited about, and Iron Hands is going up across the board. This is not just the special illustration rare version is, nah mate, across the board. Recently, and it really is since the end of February, beginning of March, which is about when people started looking at Japanese results, testing for EUIC, etc., we can see that it has jumped from a $6 EX to a $20 EX, although the last sold was $37. Really not entirely sure why it jumped quite that much, but the memo seems to be out on Iron Hands. Iron Hands has been out. Look, it's been a good card, right? Iron Hands, we saw it played in Miraidon decks. We've seen it played in some Baxcalibur decks, although that is quite a bit rarer. We all know we've seen it played in Lost Zone decks. We all know it's a good card. It takes extra prizes when it takes a KO. Nobody is surprised by Iron Hands being good. I think the difference here is people have gone, we've got a deck it fits into in this future deck, where it's going to be more consistent and more reliable than it's ever been before. And the fact that they're giving away this deck quite easily on PTCG Live probably doesn't hurt either. And we end up in this situation where the hype is real for this deck. And the cards are spiking. Like the regular version, which $6, honestly, Playable EX, $6, that's about right nowadays. Over $20? That is unusual, but it is not an aberration. We see this across the board. If we take a look at the full art, it has gone from a $10 card up to a $25 card. Again, all in the past kind of 3 or 4 weeks, jumping up, and no signs of it going down. This is going to go down when we see the deck being rubbish. When people stop caring about the deck, that's when it's going to go down. And yes, there is a special illustration rare, dropped all the way down to a $20 card. Good luck now picking it up for less than $30. And I got to say, I'm a huge fan of special illustration rares generally. This is one of my least favourite special illustration rare EXs. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But it doesn't matter. It's not all about me. If you like it, you go get it. But Iron Hands across the board absolutely jumping. And we're seeing this a little bit with a few other playable cards as well, but it seems kind of inconsistent. Like Roaring Moon is a good card that's seeing play and success over in Japan. It is getting some hype. It's got a good chance of performing well at EUIC. What's happening to the special illustration rare? Yeah, continuing to go down. Sitting nicely at $55 after being at $90, and you can see there from the graph on TCG Player, it is just a nice, simple, well, it's just going down. Simple as that. Just flicking down, almost in a straight line graph, honestly. And Roaring Moon is expected to be good. This is a card that we expect to get to EUIC, and all of a sudden it's a good card, and it's seeing play, and it's seeing a lot of success, and people are liking it. But it's not doing what Iron Hands is doing. And it's not doing what some of the other cards are doing. Despite being, and I'm not going to show you the other versions, right? The other versions are doing the same. Special illustration rare. Like, if only one of them was going to be jumping in price, it would be the special illustration rare. And the special illustration rare is not jumping in price. And I'm telling you, I've checked the others, none of them are. I mean, if you want a nice example, how about Giratina? Because Giratina with Arceus is expected to be another deck which is very good at EUIC, sees a bunch of play, sees a bunch of success. That is what we're expecting to happen. So let's go straight to the fanciest version of it, the special, well, it's not actually a special illustration rare, it's just an alternate art or something, but you know what I'm going with this. And what do we see? It is actually going up quite nicely. But there's no spike happening here. This is a very standard kind of, if we look at the 1 year graph, it fell down to as low as it was getting, which was 240, and it's been climbing up quite nicely since. But this is what we expect to see. Card comes out, lots of hype, goes high, becomes more available, price comes down nicely, set becomes harder to find, lots of new sets get released, and it starts creeping back up again. This is exactly what we would expect to see from a high-end collectible card like the alternate art Giratina V. But then it is getting followed a little bit, but only a little bit. Like, the full art has nominally gone up from like a $7 card to a $9 card. Not entirely sure we can call that a price spike, but it is going up a little bit. That is happening. And we do see this a little bit with some of the V-Stars as well. Like the best version of the V-Star, very clearly the Akira Igawa artwork that we saw coming around in Crown Zenith. And, if we look at the year-long graph, again, it fell and it's going up. But that is kind of what we would expect. Is this really a spike because it's getting super playable? I'm suggesting maybe not. It's just been long enough that it's happening. So we know that Iron Hands is jumping up massively, and it is because of the whole deck factor. We know that the Giratina generally are going up, but they're going up quite slowly, and it's probably not the playability. Although it's probably impacting it a little bit, but it's also because it's been out for a while. But how about Lugia? Lugia won the Fukuoka Champions League, the big tournament. In the format we're going into at EUIC, the big winner, as in the number one deck, was Lugia. And we are seeing jumps from Lugia. So if we have a look at the alternate art, for instance, I mean, look, if you look at the year-long graph, yeah, it's still gone down massively. But actually, from kind of January, February time, it is starting to sneak up again. Could this be like Giratina, where it's just been long enough that it is naturally going up as the set becomes less available? Maybe. But there is also a decent chance that this is people going, hang on a second, Lugia's good now? Maybe we should pay more attention to this, because we can have a look at the gold Lugia, and certainly this has seen quite a big jump. You know, it topped off at 25, dropped down to 10, and it's already back up to like between 15 and 20. And again, it is really since kind of like February that we've started to see this jump. I'm not sure this is a coincidence. You know, Japan's rotating, Lugia's seeing a lot more play, getting a lot more hype, and now all of a sudden, all of the fancy Lugia cards just start jumping up in price. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not sure this is a coincidence. The Rainbow Rare doing exactly the same thing. If we look at the year-long graph, it absolutely craters at $20, and then it's back up to like 25. And look, it's only a $5 jump from 20 to 25. I'm not trying to mislead you here, but I am saying that since Lugia came around and really, you know, it was the best deck in the format when it released. It was the best deck in the format for months, and then it completely dropped off the map, and now all of a sudden, all the fancy Lugia cards are jumping in price. I'm just saying this might not be a coincidence. And it really does seem to be these top decks that it's happening to. Iron Hand, Iron Crown, Giratina, Lugia, these cards we're expecting to be good coming UIC are all of a sudden jumping. But if you want something completely different, how about the illustration rare Gengar? This has taken a massive jump. On release, it dropped down to a $10 card. It's now jumped up to a $30 card. I mean, the last sales are $35, $35, $50. That's absurd. It's a ridiculous price jump. And honestly, it's as big and as silly a price jump as Iron Hands. But at least Iron Hands, we can look at it and go, yeah, well, it's super playable and it might wreck EUIC. But look, I've told you this happens. Like every set, the player/collector base, the fans of the Pokémon TCG, will pick a random illustration rare and go, this one! And then it balloons in price. Apparently Gengar is the one. We have seen actually a very similar thing happening with the illustration rare Chinchino. It's only actually gone up from like 10 to 15, so again, you got to take it in the context of the Y-axis here. But this is the actual main attacker with Lugia, so this does actually make perfect sense. If you're playing Lugia, you are playing it with Chinchino. That is the build that won the Fukuoka Champions League. So, yeah, actually, this does kind of make quite a lot of sense. That this is the card that people would be pushing up. So, I can understand this. This kind of makes sense to me. All right, cool. The Gengar, though, nah, mate. It's literally just people going, I like Gengar. And then all of a sudden, Gengar balloons in price. That is literally it. That is your explanation. It's not that good a card. It's just people like Gengar. And therefore, you take the Ghastly, and the Ghastly balloons in price. Is anyone out there really a Ghastly fan? But of course, if you look at the artwork, yes, it's a Ghastly card, but it's got the whole evolution line on. So when I say Gengar's popular, I mean, yeah, Gengar's popular, and that pushes the whole evolution line up. So there we go. Bunch of cards jumping in price, some of which make perfect sense, some of which make, frankly, less sense. But now it's over to you guys. I want to know which of these cards you're excited about. I want to know which of these cards are exciting to you. I want to know which of these cards you're picking up. I want to know if you picked any of these up just in time or whether you were a bit late and you've now got some decisions to make. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Mary Sanders Lazenby, who's been a supporter of ours for a long time now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.